So you've got 10, 15 years plus of experience in the games industry, and perhaps you were also faced with layoffs. Perhaps you were in a job for many, many years, and this is the first time that you find yourself without a job. If this is you, this video is for all those that are experienced. And in this video, I want to explore some of the possibilities that you may not know that you have right now in this industry, because it's expanding, games are everywhere, and there's studios and people and companies looking for your services and looking for your expertise. So what we'll explore in this video are going to be freelancing and consulting opportunities, building your industry influence to make sure that people recognize the talent and experience that you have, aiming for leadership positions on different studios, different projects, and pivoting to new fields like education and virtual production. So if this sounds like you, let's get to it. Alright, welcome to another video. My name is Harvey Newman, and if you're new here, I've been in the industry, games industry, for about 20 plus years, and this video is special to me because I feel like I'm talking to my people, the people that have been around for a while, and things have been really tough for anybody with experience as well as people that don't have so much experience. The problem that we have in the industry is that there is such a thing as being overqualified, and especially if you have been working for one studio most of your career, let's say 15, 20 plus years, then it's difficult for any other studio out there to sometimes see the value that you can bring to a studio, and this can be detrimental to your skills. And then there's also the fact that maybe you are willing to actually go from being a director, let's say, to being a lead, but most companies will look at you and be like, how are you going to be a lead if you've been a director? Maybe this is going to be too little for him or for her. I know from being a director for quite a few years that sometimes you just want to have hands-on work. Sometimes you just want to go back to what you used to do, a little bit more hands-on instead of being in meetings all the time. So hence why we start with this conundrum of having lots of experience, but a lot of the time you don't find the jobs. Now, this is what we're going to be talking about in this video. But before we actually go deep into this subject, I want to remind you guys that these videos are part of a series. I've dropped series 1, which was very much for newcomers, people that are outside of the industry wanted to come in. Part 2 was for more mid-level experience, and this is for the very experienced. And there's going to be another one, the 4th one, coming soon, about bonus tips. So keep it tuned. Another thing that I want to say is that if these videos prove useful to you, know that if you go to learn.harveynewman.com, I have coaching, mentorships, and courses that I cater to the individual. And this is for all levels. If you don't want to actually have one-to-ones, you have courses. But if you actually want to have a one-to-one and perhaps are stuck and need more advice specific to you, the individual, then I have my coaching sessions that can go from 1 hour all the way to 1 month. Also, coming up soon, we are going to have a workshop in May this year. So if you actually want to have something a little bit more hardcore where we actually work together for a whole month, twice a week, 3 hours every single session, going deep into what holes do you have in your show reel, in your work, what kind of things do you have to actually work on. I have people from very little experience coming to my workshops to people with lots of experience, 15 years plus, that basically want guidance in their careers and where they should go next and what things they should do next. So if you actually want to know more, check it out, learn.harveynewman.com. You'll get to know much more there, and I hope to see you there, and I hope to work with you very soon. With all that out of the way, now let's dive deep into this video, and let's first have a look at consulting and freelancing for all those that are experienced out there. Consulting and freelancing is a funny business because you need to be a bit more proactive. And this can be complicated for anybody that has been in the industry working, let's say, for the same company for a lot of years. And having good social media skills helps you a ton. And for us, being a developer, especially spending so many years in games development, we have a tendency to be a little bit more on the background and people don't know much much about us. Now that it's you by yourself trying to sell a service, you kind of have to basically be more out there so people start connecting with you, for you, and your services. So announcing your availability is something that you need to do right now, and also making sure that your connections, because you're going to have lots of connections on LinkedIn over the many years that you've been working, know that you're available for remote gigs, for contract gigs, for freelance gigs, because those might be the easiest way that you can have to get those jobs, right? Now, another thing that you can do, which I haven't really delved in, but I know a few people that I have, is going to platforms such as Upwork and ArtStation, all that stuff, because what happens there, even though the earnings levels are going to be much slower, you have a platform that is made for you to get jobs. So if you're willing to start with something freelancing and you're looking to contract in the future, I think working on those kind of platforms helps you a ton, because at least he gets a little bit of money doing a few gigs here and there, especially when it comes to dealing with clients. It teaches you a lot about the personal touch that you need to have when it comes to dealing one-on-one with a client and fulfilling their goals. And then there is specifically the idea of selling consulting services. And this consulting service is something that I realized that over time became more and more important to me, and this is what I do a lot of the time now for my day job, and is the idea that you have a certain amount of expertise that you gathered over the years that is really valuable. You just don't know perhaps how valuable it is right now, but it's really valuable to all the studios out there that are looking for somebody that knows how to do things at a AAA, at a high quality level. And because we are in this new industry right now that there's more and more indie studios and AA studios popping up left, right, and center, there is always studios looking for your talent that perhaps have a little bit of funding that they prefer to actually give to you as a consultant to give them the information they need in order to make their project better. Also, I think personally, I feel much more fulfilled, at peace, and I have much more enjoyment working in smaller projects than working in big projects. And the beauty of consultancy is this dynamic of helping, but also basically having fun. And this is where I take the most joy. And I think that there needs to be more people in games right now that basically needs to be consultants, not for anyone's gain. It's just that I think that there's a lot of knowledge that is being lost, on a lot of people that have a lot of knowledge that are not really sharing or are not really being valued for their knowledge. And I think that consultancy absolutely demonstrates the value that you have to others. And the last point here, when it comes to consulting and freelancing, it's about selling your knowledge. This sounds obvious, but believe it or not, putting the work behind a course is hard. So one of the things that I would advise you is that if you lost your job recently and you are looking for another job, while you are looking for another job and you don't have anything to do, then put in some work to actually create a course, record videos about something that you know incredibly well. And then you can edit them later if you want to. You can edit them now if you have the time, and then put it up online. It can be in Upwork, it can be in your own website, but that knowledge gathered over a certain amount of time in video format, with text, with information, with as much detail as possible, will be valuable to somebody out there. And it's one of those things that you don't know until you do it, and once you do it, you realize, I should have done this before. So do it now while you're free and you have time, because it's going to help you a ton on the long run. So now let's move over to the second point, which is building industry influence. All right, so I'm going to say the same thing as I said on the second episode, which is very much going to conferences. But here is not just about going to conferences and meeting people and networking. This, you being experienced and having many titles under your belt, fingers crossed, or quite a lot of experience, means that you can start speaking at conferences such as GDC, SIGGRAPH, local meetups, universities, all kinds of stuff. And this is really powerful because it gets your name out there. If you have a CV that is very impressive and you've done a lot of things, you can submit a talk to these places. So you can basically go ahead and promote, but at the same time say, I have services available. If you're looking to know more, if you like my talk, then get in touch here. And this basically has the whole of the industry looking at one place. So it means that all the people that perhaps you haven't got in touch with, they are looking at your talk talk, and most likely we'll get in touch if it sounds like what you're saying makes sense. So make sure you do those. Don't be shy and put together a killer presentation so you can actually crush and get that job. Now, in the same vein, writing articles, writing pieces that basically explain your knowledge on a specific subject helps you a ton. I highly recommend Substack, which is what I use, but you can use Medium, you can use your own blogs, but one way or the other, make sure you actually go to a platform that perhaps you can have some type of social interaction. Substack is brilliant because of it. And definitely, if you actually want to have a look at an example, subscribe to my newsletter, link down below, so you can see how I actually do it every week. But I think it becomes a way for you to channel anything that you actually want to say. You can do it through your newsletter, but from a professional perspective that hopefully helps others. And if you do those two things, I think you're going to get a lot of people listening to you and basically paying attention to what you do. And eventually, believe it or not, through symbiosis, things will happen and people will reach out to you because of your knowledge on a specific subject. And here again, another point for your influence here is mentoring and teaching. Now, there's a lot of platforms out there that you can do that. In animation, for example, we have iAnimate, we have Animation Mentor, there's also Agora community, and each discipline normally has something. Like, doesn't matter if it's coding or art, whatever, art has ArtStation. So you can basically start teaching and developing something of your own and developing a name for yourself. But most importantly, once again, those eyes that are actually looking at hiring people and getting to know more people that know how to do a specific job, they might reach out to you and ask for consultancy gigs or freelance gigs or full-time job. So another way for you to expose yourself is definitely mentoring, teaching in some way, shape, or form. And lastly, here on building your influence is personal branding. I mentioned this on episode 2, but here I think you need to go much bigger, because here you have most likely a name for yourself. So brand yourself as, I am this guy that has done these things and here's my brand. Maybe create a logo, I did, and basically brand yourself and put yourself out there to make sure that people understand that it's not just a person, it's a thing. Like, I'm behind my own brand a lot. And if you believe in yourself and people start seeing that you believe in your own brand and believe in your own knowledge, then people will start reaching out to you and be like, can you give us a little bit of that? And I think it's completely normal, because all those 15 plus years of experience that you have is not there just for show. It's genuinely something that you have within you. And there's nothing better than for you to basically just flex it, especially now that you can, especially now that you're outside of the industry or in the industry, but as a consultant, as a freelance, then yeah, 100% sell your services. Don't be shy to basically say, I've done these things, I've done it at a high level, and I can also do it for your own studio, your own brand, your own company. Those things bode incredibly well for people out there, and they will help you in the long run. Okay, let's move on to targeting leadership roles. All right, so this is a little bit more about your resume, your CV, but I want to basically say that this is different mainly because of your experience. And you know this already. If you're watching this video, a lot of these things that I'm saying might sound familiar, but I think that given your experience, you need to actually be at a leadership role. Now, think that if you lost your job, if you're looking for another opportunity, if you now have basically to reset yourself and basically start applying for different places, I think that now is the perfect time for you to say, I can actually be a lead. What does that take? Therefore, I'm going to actually position myself to be this person that is a leader. So whenever you do it, a few things that you have to highlight in order to make sure that you highlight that leadership role. The first thing is showcasing that you handled budgets. Just as an example, handling budgets for mocap shoots that last for many years. Normally, it's like millions of dollars. And those budgets are nuts, but it's something that happens in the industry. If you actually manage those kind of numbers, then it's going to be great for you to put that experience down so people understand that you can handle that budget and actually come under the budget. Because one of the main concerns that most studios have is that, let's say we have 500,000 for a mocap shoot for the next year. What can we do with this? you can be the person that can actually explain exactly what can be done with 500 grand for a mocap shoot, how many actors, how many days of shooting, what studio, all that stuff. Those are the things that you need to add to your resume. Now, networking as well for you is going to be slightly different, even though obviously you can connect with anybody, just like I mentioned on the previous studio. I think for you, if you have enough experience, most likely you've connected with so many people at the top of the games in different studios around the world, you have more chances to get possibilities in different studios, fingers crossed, if all goes well. So, executive roundtable, sometimes these things happen, make sure you get there. Like if you're actually part of any awards or any something like a BAFTA or a Games Award or anything like that, normally they have judges with lots of experience. Join in and basically be a part of that conversation so you can network more with people up top, because you never know. This industry is so dynamic that perhaps the studio, the project, the publisher doesn't need somebody like with your experience right now, but 3 months from now, 6 months from now, things might change and all of a sudden you are the right person for the job. So having those connections is incredibly valuable and you should definitely keep those and treat them like gold. Now, interviews. This is definitely one of those things that you have to showcase your leadership skills the most. You are going to be tested a lot of the time, especially because you have so much experience. It's normal for you, if nobody knows who you are, for them to go like, who's this guy and what does he know? And then basically test you. And if you're confident enough, you know that you know your stuff. So I don't think there's going to be anything that is going to throw you off. You've seen a lot of stuff over the last 15, 20 years. So you're going to be in a good place no matter what they talk to you about. But another thing that you need to actually make sure you showcase in this type of interviews is basically your philosophy and also how do you resolve conflicts. Because I think that these two things plus strategic vision, those three things, I think actually allow people to know that you are the leader that they are looking for. So philosophy is very much about your beliefs as a leader. Some leaders think that they need to do what I want and that's it, right? But some others, like myself, they believe that we need to listen to the team, you need to protect the team, you need to make sure that your team is the most important thing in your director role, for example, and then everything else comes from that. Also, there's also conflict resolution. So basically, name something that you have done and you solve the conflict. You as a director, as a leader, as somebody with lots of experience, I would expect you, if I was recording you, to have a few good stories under your belt that you can tell me that these things happen and this is how we solved it. And then lastly, about strategic vision. What are your steps to get the game or the project or the department to get to a better place? Those are the kind of things that you're going to be talking about in an interview, and you need to take it with you so you're ready to basically, in a way that is not forceful, for them to know that you are the right leader that they are looking for. Now, lastly, let's look at career paths that you have as an experienced developer. Now, for all those that perhaps after 15, 20 years, you are tired of the games industry and you just want to move on from the games industry, there are options here as well. So education, academia, those things are basically new challenges that you can tackle. What I find is that a lot of universities out there, especially big ones out there, they have teachers, mentors, the people, professors that are teaching them game design, animation, anything game related, because most universities have some type of game program, but they don't really have experienced people with hands-on experience in games that is teaching their students. Normally, it's people that either love games or have a little bit of experience, and that's enough for them to be the head of the department or the head of the program or the professor. You can come from a perspective that, look, this is the reality of games and this is the things that you're genuinely going to do. This is the environment that you're going to be in. This is the kind of things and the challenges you're going to have. And basically you can use those leadership skills that you have, but in a new university environment with students that are basically very green and are looking to you to tell them what to do. Now, when these students then make it into the games, they'll thank you for all the basically feedback and information that you gave them about the industry ahead of time. So you spending in that knowledge, that experience that you have with others, and then really truly preparing them for what's coming goes a long way. Now, another one that I think is big and is up and coming that you can help out is definitely virtual productions. And the reason why I'm saying this is because Unreal is becoming bigger than just games. And there's a lot of people out there that actually want people with game development background to help them in their productions. And it can be cinematics for games, can be cinematics for films, can be TV series. But if you are somebody that actually works mostly in engine, technical animator, engineer, designer, cinematographer in engine, game director, anything like that, you most likely will be able to maybe expand your wings a little bit by maybe going into another field that you're not familiar with. And this can be indie, can be full AAA movies, but I'm pretty sure you will know some people that actually are from cinema, if you're anything like me, or TV as well, and you can basically nudge them and say, maybe I want to like use my experience to work on your production if you have any openings, and that helps you quite a bit. Now, another few industries that I'm going to throw out here just for all those that cannot make the connections is going to be AR, VR, obviously, robotics, simulation, and automotive UI. Now, all of these things require graphics, all these things require movement, all these things require a lot of the time Unreal nowadays, right? Pre-visualization, 3D, all of those things basically are within your wheelbarrow if you worked in games. And the beauty of game is that we are at the edge of technology when it comes to production. If you think about it, with the engine, this is why film is adapting it, TV is adapting it, which means that you most likely will be able to use your skills if you think strategically on a bunch of other things that perhaps you didn't thought about before, but most likely sound exciting to you right now. Now, for all those that are still wanting to actually work in the industry and are willing to kind of take a completely different path, maybe you can actually do what I have done a few years back, which is a little bit crazy, basically going down the business path of creating your own studio. Because if you think about it, the way I actually thought about it is that I went to multiple AAA studios, multiple indie studios, and I never found the studio that I could fit in, or it could fit me, I want to say. And I was happy in some more than others, but it was never like perfect. And I wanted to find the studio that was perfect. Plus, I wanted to work on something that was creative. And to me, that meant going like to an entrepreneur side of things and create my own thing, because only then I will be able to actually model it after what I envisioned. And this is why Proxima Studio, my studio that is working on a game called Warship Jolly Roger, came about. Now, this is definitely a route that you can go to. You definitely have enough years, enough experience with 15, 20 years experience, but it's not easy. It's incredibly hard, especially nowadays, because the industry is going through a lot of changes. However, I'm a big believer, and maybe it's me being positive, that the industry is changing so much that if you make it right now, once we actually go around this circle and go back to being in a good place in the industry where redundancies are non-existent or very little, and games are making money and we know exactly where we're going 5 years from now, I think that you'll be able to leverage the most out of your company and your ideas. And I think that eventually, if you actually make it, you will be able to be in a better place at the end of this. A lot of companies open and close. We never know exactly how successful anybody's going to be, including ourselves, but you can at least give it a try. And if you don't try, you don't know, and at least you know that you tried. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. So to wrap it up, as a senior, your expertise counts a lot. So whether you want traditional game development roles or you want to branch out to another industry, use your network, your brand, leadership experience to find that perfect fit that you've been looking for all these years. Because there's a blessing in disguise when you lose that job or when you actually are made redundant, where you now maybe have to rearrange your life to maybe pursue that dream that you always wanted to. And it looks different to any individual out there, so you have to find your perfect fit and then follow it. Because I think after 15, 20 plus years, you 100% deserve to follow that dream that you've been wanting to all these years. Now, if this was useful, my challenge to you is to basically do a plan how you're going to go about this, and also email potential clients that you might want to have perhaps, and maybe draft that conference talk that you wanted to do all these years at GDC that you haven't been able to because either your studio didn't allow you to, or you didn't really have time to do it. Those things, I think, are good places for you to start. Gives you a massive boost. GDC is a good one because because after you finish that talk, you feel like $1 million. Now, this is part 3 of the series. Join me for part 4 coming out very soon, where I basically have a lot of leftover tips that didn't fit in any one of these that I can actually use to supercharge your job hunt. Now, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below about what do you think about the subject, like, dislike, or any other questions that you might have about this subject. Always happy to talk to you guys, and until the next video, as always, stay well, stay safe. Peace. If you enjoyed the video or found it helpful, go ahead and hit the like button. If you super enjoyed it, leave a super thanks. It's like leaving a little tip and it directly supports the channel. If you haven't already, subscribe and turn on post notifications so you can continue to see my videos and get your weekly dose of better.